and it's worth paying attention to. Across the stone bridge of Newton Brook, which is just by the hall, and on the left-hand side, close by the watermill, appear the ruins of the site of the ancient barony of Newton. Now, there are documentary sources that say that the manor house for Newton was somewhere near the site of Newton Hall, and various people writing in the past have speculated that the building that we excavated was that was on the site of the medieval manor house. But Curden's quite specific here. He says it's ruined in 1695. So I think the Newton Hall that we're going to look at today, is a different site, in a different place to the medieval manor house. And again, we've got some excavated evidence now to back that up. This is Baines, who I mentioned before, in 1868. Again, he describes Newton Hall, venerable heart-timbered building, but he was very Victorian in the way he ran. And he gives a little bit more backup as well. I'm with Baines on this. He says that this medieval manor house is underneath the railway embankment as you're travelling along on your way to Manchester. And I think the excavations largely confirm this. So he's a multi-billionaire. In fact, he's disrupting the rail traffic between Liverpool and Manchester for a couple of years. We can have a look underneath the railway embankment and try and find it, but it's effectively lost forever. So those are the documents. So we think we know that we've got Newton Hall, probably built in 1634, and it was it's on or close to the site of the medieval manor house. This is a map which Stephen Dowd found for me. It's an extract of a Swift map, which is basically a way of finding a way from A to B. And this is probably one of the earliest maps in Newton-le-Willows. You've got this produced somewhere between 1720 and 1764. You've got Newton Hall at the top here, Newton Mill, and the mill down the bottom of the stream. It's obviously not intended as an accurate representation, so we'll have a look later what Newton Hall actually looked like. That looks nothing like it. It's also in the wrong place as well. It's halfway along the high street. So there's something going on. This is a copy of the Lee family, big landowners in the area. They produced a series of estate maps. This is a tracing from the original. It's not the original itself. And this probably illustrates one of the dangers of using secondary sources. This is in the filing cabinets of the County Sites and Monuments record. And Newton Hall ought to be there, but it's not. I need to go back to the original document and see whether it's missing on that or if it's a tracing error. These two buildings down here, I think are probably barns. They're just slightly in the wrong place. Moving on a few years, it's the Lee Estate map, 1780. Again, this is a modern tracing of the original. If I put the original here, you wouldn't be able to see it. It's very crumpled, quite heavily torn in places, which is why I'm using the tracing. It's quite useful. See the High Street up here, with Newton Brook, the shaded area down here, and this mill pond here, probably with the watermill there, and Newton Hall. That's the first accurate representation we've got of Newton Hall. How do we know it's accurate? Because look, it more or less mirrors later maps. It's the same sort of shape. It's in the same general place. So we can be pretty confident 1780 that the building that we're going to look at was in its final form when built. This is the Newton Tide map. Dated 1839, and again, you see the railway's gone in across here, and by the time when this map was produced, Newton Hall was probably more or less as some of you may remember it before it was demolished. What you've got to remember is when it was first built, it wasn't in this nice, sort of quite dark, shaded dell, a lot of daylight blocked out by the railway embankment. It would have had nice clear views of the road to Newton. So there's the hall here, and you've got this sort of E-shaped building, two bits projecting out the back, the watermill here, and this pond here, which when I first looked at this map, I thought had been filled in on here. There's actually a very subtle bit of shading. It's shaded a slightly darker grey on the original copy. I think that's actually open water, which, again, that's worth remembering because it's important when we look at some of the paintings in the building. This is the first Ordnance Survey map, the first one that we can really positively rely on. And you know it's an old building because it's in Gothic script. Tells you it's an old building. You've got the corn mill adjacent to it as well. Here, remains. You can still see the remains if you go down the footpath. And you can see it's got this E-shaped ground plan, which is absolutely typical of later 15th and 16th century buildings. We'll have a look at one in a minute. That's the one more map, Lee Estate map 1855, and you notice it looks like that pond's been filled in. So that pond is filled in somewhere before 1855. We've got paintings. But I think this was the only view of Newton-le-Willows I knew about when I first became involved in this project about 10 years ago. And it's obviously produced shortly after the railway opened, looking at the form of that steam engine. And there's Newton Hall, tucked away in the bottom, forgotten, forlorn in the bottom. Whoever drew this obviously a lot more interested in the railway than the road and water mill. It was really frustrating looking at this, thinking, well, I wonder what that bit is on there, you know, it was hidden away. This is Rimmer again. Rimmer, the guy who was quoted in the diary written in 1634. Rimmer's an absolutely fascinating guy, Alfred Rimmer. I've tracked down a copy of his book in my local library. And reading the introduction to it, he was obviously taking a very modern approach to recording buildings. I think he was an architect by trade. He was certainly involved in the building industry somehow. And he takes great pains to stress how keen he is to accurately record things. And there's lots of useful detail here about, you see how wide this building is here. Again, that's worth noting. We've got what's called diaper work here, which is formed by projecting bricks. Notice it's absent on here. We can tell an awful lot about building by looking from the exterior, by looking at the layout of the we can tell a lot about the building's interior by looking at its exterior. So we know we've got fireplaces down here, obviously because we've got chimneys. There's no chimney there at all. This is probably copied from that drawing. It's in the 1877 volume of the Transactions of the Historic Society of Lancaster and Cheshire. And with enough similarity to suggest that it's copied. And if you look at this pond's here. So if you remember from the map sequence, we know that was infilled sometime before 1855. So again, I think that's based on the old drawing. There's lots of similarities in the pattern of the brickwork. Chimneys, and well, he's put an extra chimney in, actually, there. More of that later. We were really fortunate that Stephen Dow traced the last occupants of the farmhouse. They came along and visited the excavation while it was underway and brought along this painting, which is still in their possession. This painting fascinates me. There's lots. The more I look at it, the more I notice all sorts of inconsistencies. First thing, if you